according to the documented case of the disappearance of Dorothy Arnold. She was an American socialite, an heiress born on July 1, 1885, who vanished in New York City on December 12, 1910. As reported by National Geographic in 2025, her case remains one of the oldest unsolved missing persons cases in the United States. On a bright winter afternoon, a wealthy young woman stepped onto one of the busiest streets in America and simply ceased to exist. No body was ever found, no ransom note ever proven. The most famous detective agency in the world hunted for her, and the New York police searched for years. Yet not a single trace of Dorothy Arnold has ever surfaced. Dorothy Harriet Camille Arnold was born on July 1, 1885, into extraordinary wealth. Her father, Francis Arnold, was a prosperous perfume importer, and the family lived on the fashionable Upper East Side of Manhattan. Dorothy was educated at Bryn Mawr College and moved through the highest circles of New York society. She dreamed of becoming a writer, though her ambitions were quietly dismissed by her stern and controlling parents. Dorothy submitted her short stories to magazines, hoping to launch a literary career, but they were repeatedly rejected. To spare herself embarrassment, she rented a private post office box so her family would not learn of her failures. She grew increasingly frustrated at home, where her every move was monitored. Beneath the polished surface of the Arnold household, Dorothy felt trapped, unheard, and desperate for a life she could call her own. On the morning of December 12, 1910, Dorothy left her family home telling her mother she was going shopping for a dress to wear to her sister's coming-out party. She was 25 years old, dressed in a long blue coat and a black velvet hat. She withdrew money from the bank and set out onto Fifth Avenue. It was the last time her family would ever knowingly speak with her. Just before 2 o'clock in the afternoon, at the corner of 27th Street and Fifth Avenue, Dorothy bumped into a friend named Gladys King. They shared a short but lively chat, and Dorothy casually mentioned her plan to stroll home through Central Park. She bought a book and a box of chocolates along the way. Then she walked north toward the park and vanished into thin air. No one credible ever saw her again. When Dorothy failed to return that evening, her family did something extraordinary. They did not call the police. Terrified of scandal, they hired private investigators and quietly searched hospitals, morgues, and hotels themselves for nearly 6 weeks. Her father even traveled to Italy chasing rumors. It was only in late January 1911 that the desperate family finally admitted defeat and brought the disappearance to the authorities and the press. Once the story broke, it exploded across newspapers from coast to coast. Society papers ran Dorothy's photograph beside endless gossip and wild speculation. The famous Pinkerton detective agency was brought in, yet even the most renowned investigators in the world could find nothing. Theories multiplied. Had she run away to start a new life? Had she died in a botched abortion? Had she been murdered? Every lead collapsed into dead ends. Disturbing details slowly emerged. Dorothy had secretly been involved with an older man named George Griscom Jr., who had rejected her. Some investigators believed she may have died during a secret procedure at an illegal clinic, and that the powerful people involved buried her body to protect themselves. Others whispered that her own family knew more than they admitted. Yet every theory dissolved for lack of proof, leaving only silence and suspicion. The years passed and the leads grew colder. Dorothy's father died in 1922, never learning what became of his daughter, and reportedly left her nothing in his will, convinced she was dead. By 1960, 50 years afterward, the case remained utterly baffling and unsolved. Today, more than a century later, the disappearance of Dorothy Arnold stands as one of the oldest and most haunting cold cases in American history. Dorothy Arnold walked into Central Park on a winter afternoon and simply erased herself from history. Was she murdered and hidden by people with everything to lose? Did she flee the gilded cage of her family to live and die under another name? More than 100 years later, we still have no answer. Some doors once closed never open again. If this story haunted you, subscribe for more unexplained disappearances that were